So my name is Sierra Evans, and I am the director of Folx Gallery, an online virtual gallery where we try to create community connections through the exhibition of artists big and small. So my job is not only to direct the gallery as the most, like, I guess, like the top creative head of like what's going on, but also design like the zines that we put out, design the show, and also talk to artists from like grassroots organizing and stuff. The virtual space was, I think, one of those things that I was like, we're all college kids. We don't have money. We don't know. I can't go and rent out an actual space without me going into debt. And so with the virtual space, it is a way to actually like put people together and create sort of this small community, because right now during quarantine and during everything else, everybody's obviously always on their phones, always on their laptops. And I think right now everybody really wants to know what's inside of like this digitally synchronized world. And so a way to do that with the virtual space is trying to make it even more, I guess, raw and, a little bit more realistic in comparison to like the way that the way I could do it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the virtual space to me, it's been really wonderful because I'm able to actually give somebody an opportunity to like do exhibition design or do like what they're good at in the virtual space, and maybe one day set those up in real life. But at least for now, it's something that is small and feels like it's almost like exclusive in a way. First thing that I do is I put in all of the shows, like I put in the title, I put in the artist name, and then we put in this little editorial, and that's usually written by one of our literary curators, either Fiona or Renee. We'll come up with something like that. And this is one of the things that's so interesting within the art world right now, is that it's wonderful because beforehand, like, you get to look at a painting and you actually see the brilliance of it in person, but now everything is so digital that you have, like, everybody has to be their own, like, personal photographer. And so that's, like, a really big thing, is that, like, whenever somebody sends in any image of their work, whether it's 3D or 2D, we have to really make sure it's wonderful, because sometimes we reject submissions just because the work is actually not that, photographed well, which is kind of sad. But that is one of the important things with doing this online gallery. But I think one of the things that people kind of mess up with is that whenever they go to upload these things into a virtual space, they try to get it like as close as possible to like real. Like if it's like a small, like somebody like submitted like, here's a necklace, and they upload a picture and it's like the size of the necklace, I don't really care for that. I like whenever things are actually, you can see it in person, see it in perspective. And so everything, like, I will change the size, I will change the way that the actual artwork looks, depending on, like, how strong it is. Right now, so what I'm doing is I am putting the artworks, technically hanging the artworks on the wall, I guess, and I am trying to get it as level as possible, and also just trying to make sure that the sizes look right, like what I was talking about with what I think is going to look best. And that's the beautiful thing about software, is that you can, everything's already built in a way. So I'm just kind of going by a grid, and it makes my job as easy as possible.
So how do you decide how to arrange the space? Obviously you have like multiple pieces by a certain person, but how do you decide what to put right next to something else?
I think a lot of times, and that's like a lot of most of the time that's a conversation that I have with some of my other people within Folx, is that, we try to decide whether is it a strong work, that, should this strong work go by something that's a little bit more like subdued, either like a poem or, like a short story, something that is not going to necessarily take away something like the formal qualities of, like, say, like a painting or like a 3D work. And then sometimes we're just little kids, and we're like, I think these colors look good together, I think this looks pretty. And so I think that's, I always really try to make sure that it's like, there's I want the story to be as strong as possible, and I want like those works that are put together, either different facets of the story or at least like two polar opposites. There's always a fun way to play with like juxtaposition. The whole entire creation of Folx was out of looking at what like the Louisville art scene was doing for others, and attending, you know, different meetings and seeing different art shows and realizing that, like, we're not doing the best with our artists. We're not doing the best with, you know, the autonomy that artists deserve. And so my whole idea is that we need to be better than what other institutions are doing. We need to be better than what museums are doing. And so that's what I look at a lot, because that's where my direction would like to go, is that I'd love to, you know, one day for me, I'd love to be a museum administrator or director or whatever, hopefully one day in the future. But for right now, I'd like to implement what's the biggest change, what's the best change, and maybe one day take that into something bigger besides Folx, outside of the virtual gallery.